In the immense blue of the Indian Ocean, a landmass floats in splendid isolation. Here, colossal baobabs, the fabled upsidectral figures. For 88 million years, this island has been a world unto itself, a biological ark cast adrift from all other continents. It is a place where evolution, freed from the constraints of... To grasp the genesis of this unique realm, we must journey back through deep time, to an age when the map of our world was unrecognizable. All the Earth's land was fused into a single, colossal supercontinent, Gondwana. On this primordial landmass, the futures of South America, Africa, India, and Antarctica were bound together. Madagascar was but a fragment embedded within this giant puzzle. Then, around 160 million years ago, the very foundations of the world began to groan and shift. Immense tectonic forces started to tear the supercontinent apart. Madagascar, clinging to the African plate, broke away, a passenger on a continental raft. But its journey had only just begun. A second, more profound schism occurred. Roughly 88 million years ago, it severed its final connection, this time to the Indian subcontinent, and was set adrift, alone. From that moment, its fate was sealed. No land bridges would ever form. No great migrations of saber-toothed cats or herds of grazing giants would ever reach its shores. For millennia upon millennia, it became a vast, living laboratory, a crucible where nature could conduct its boldest experiments. The life forms stranded in this magnificent exile began to change in ways seen nowhere else. In the absence of large predators, the small and the timid inherited the kingdom. Without the pressure of giant herbivores, the flora grew into fantastical shapes and sizes. Over eons, a spine of mountains rose, cleaving the island in two. To the east, moisture-laden winds from the ocean nourished dense, emerald rainforests, a cacophony of life. To the west, a rain shadow created a different world entirely, a semi-arid landscape of spiny forests and cracked red earth. Within this stark dichotomy, life adapted with breathtaking ingenuity. The Europlatus gecko perfected its camouflage, melting into the texture of tree bark until it became a living the forest floor. And into this isolated paradise, by some miraculous, improbable voyage across the Mozambique Channel, came the ancestors of the lemurs. They found a world without competition, a primate Eden, and diversified into over 100 distinct species. Madagascar stands as a testament to the power of isolation and the endless creativity of life. It is a fragile echo of a different Earth, a parallel world that shows us not only what was, but what could have been, had the story of our planet taken a slightly different. Tens of millions of years before the first human gaze fell upon its shores, a voyage of chance began. Castaways, clinging to rafts of storm-torn vegetation, drifted from the great African continent across an immense expanse of ocean. Once they made landfall on this isolated paradise, they would never return. Here, in a world free from the familiar pressures of predators and competitors, these accidental mariners thrived. They radiated into an evolutionary explosion, diversifying into more than 100 distinct species, each with its own voice, its own rhythm, its own unique solution to the puzzle of existence. But to truly understand this island, we must travel much further back, to a time when it was a world within a world, a lost continent of the Cretaceous period. Imagine Madagascar, more than 70 million years ago. The air is a perpetual steam bath, thick with moisture and the scent of strange blossoms and primeval decay. Rain, a near-daily deluge, feeds a labyrinth of mangrove forests and ancient tea-colored rivers that pulse with the rhythm of a primordial earth. There are no mechanical sounds, no human whispers. There is only the symphony of the strange, the percussive thrum of colossal insect wings, the guttural bellows of unseen leviathans, and the heavy, earth-shaking footsteps of dinosaurs echoing through the gloom. Trees, titans of a forgotten botany, tower tens of meters into the humid sky. Colossal ferns, primitive conifers, and flowering plants long since vanished from the planet. Beneath their dense canopy lies a dim and humid world, a kingdom ruled by reptiles, amphibians of improbable size, and insects that would dwarf their modern kin. The sky itself is different. Higher oxygen levels fuel a rampant flourishing of life, dragonflying through a chaotic ballet of prehistory. Deep within the ancient rock layers of western Madagascar, this lost world has left its testament. It is a story told not in words but in stone. Scientists unearth jagged, serrated teeth designed for shearing flesh, femur bones as thick as tree trunks, built to support monstrous weight, and fossilized eggs, weighing nearly 10 kilograms, that held the promise of new giants. Amid this world walked one of the island's most fearsome monarchs, Majungasaurus, the Cannibal King of Cretaceous Madagascar. It stretched over 7 meters from snout to tail and weighed more than a ton, a predator built for brutality. Its skull was thick, almost ornate, armed with a bat America, which hunted vast herds across open plains. Majungasaurus was a product of its harsh, isolated environment. Large prey was scarce. When hunger became desperation, it turned on the only available source of meat, its own kind. Fossilized bones of Majungasaurus bear the unmistakable deep gouges of another Majungasaurus's teeth, one of the clearest pieces of evidence in the fossil record that dinosaurs practiced cannibalism. In its isolated kingdom, it was a brutal ruler in a realm of intimate violence, a grim testament to survival at any cost. Yet violence was not the only form of grandeur. On another part of the island, moving through the flooded forests, another creature dominated the landscape through sheer, magnificent scale. This was Rapetosaurus, the only known long-necked dinosaur of Madagascar. At more than 15 meters in length and weighing up to 10 tons, it was a moving mountain of flesh and bone. Its head— these were the old gods of Madagascar, rulers of an epoch so distant it defies human comprehension. Their reign ended in fire and dust, leaving the island silent, waiting. And into that silence, the next chapter of life eventually drifted, beginning a new, but no less extraordinary, story of isolation and adaptation. The island became a laboratory, a refuge where evolution could run its own spectacular experiments, unseen by the rest of the world. Each creature, from the mightiest dinosaur to the smallest lemur, is a word in the epic poem of this land, a poem written in bone and stone, a story of survival against impossible odds on an ark adrift in time. 70 million years ago, on a fragment of Gondwana adrift in the Indian Ocean, a giant moved with the slow, deliberate grace of a living mountain. This was the kingdom of Rapetosaurus, a titan among the last of the dinosaurs. It was a creature of immense scale, yet its life was one of quiet consumption. It did not hunt, it merely harvested. Lays far beyond the reach of any other herbivore, a private garden in the sky. In this world of giants, the law was written in tooth and claw, and the apex predator was Majungasaurus, a cannibalistic hunter whose very name meant terror. Rapetosaurus was its designated prey. But the Earth keeps its secrets buried deep. When paleontologists examined the fossilized remains of these long-necked herbivores, they uncovered a story far more complex. The bones of juvenile Rapetosaurus were scarred, not just by the massive jaws of Majungasaurus, but by the bites of smaller, unknown carnivores. These marks are a silent testament to a lost food web, a caste of predators that vanished from the fossil record, leaving behind only these faint signatures of their existence. Before the reign of the Great Hunter, Madagascar's plains were already a landscape of peril, stalked by ghosts we may never name. Not all of the island's killers walked on 2 legs. In the murky, stagnant swamps, another kind of monster held court. It was an ambush predator of primordial patience, a creature that hid beneath the mud and algae, waiting for the world to come to it. This was Beelzebufo ampinga, the devil frog. It was an amphibian of nightmarish proportions, swelling to the size of a modern soccer ball and weighing nearly 5 kilograms. Its cavernous mouth, framed by a brutally powerful jaw, could crush small mammals, lizards, and even the unluckiest of baby dinosaurs with a single, devastating snap. Its skin was not the slick membrane of a common frog, but a thick, almost armored hide fell across the wetlands. Beelzebufo did not croak, it hissed, a deep, rasping exhalation that could silence the chorus of every lesser creature in the swamp. Here, even a frog could be a tyrant. Then, 66 million years ago, the sky fell. A global cataclysm wiped the slate clean, extinguishing the dinosaurs and the majority of all life on Earth. Yet Madagascar, isolated by leagues of ocean, endured. It became an ark, a time capsule preserving a fragment of a prehistoric world. As millions of years passed and the planet cooled and warmed through successive ice ages, this sanctuary gave rise to a new dynasty of giants. Across the western plains strode Apiornis, the elephant bird. Standing over 3 meters tall and weighing half a ton, it was the heaviest bird that ever lived. It could not fly, but in a land without large predators, it had no need to escape into the sky. It was a gentle giant reborn, wandering through open grasslands and scrub forests. It laid eggs of astonishing size, larger than a human head, each one a fortress of calcium containing the equivalent of over 150 chicken eggs. A single one could have fed a family for days. Alongside it lived other wonders, the giant lemur, Megalodapus, moving with the slow, deliberate strength of a bear. The colossal tortoise, Aldebrachellus, a living boulder inching its way through time. And pygmy hippos, relics from an African ancestry. Together, the natural order. But every Eden has its end. Roughly 2,000 years ago, a new silhouette appeared on the horizon. Humans, navigating in outrigger canoes from Southeast Asia and Africa, crossed the sea and set foot on an island that seemed to exist outside of time. They did not know they were stepping into a lost world. To them, this was a land of plenty, rich with forests, rivers, and an abundance of strange, fearless creatures. For the ancient inhabitants, however, this arrival was the beginning of a great and final tragedy. The elephant birds, naive to this new, intelligent predator, were hunted for their meat and their colossal eggs. Forests were burned to clear land for farming, the smoke choking the sky. The giant lemurs and tortoises, slow and trusting, were taken for food. In the span of just a few centuries, an ecosystem that had evolved over millions of years was unwritten. The thunderous footfalls of the elephant bird fell silent. The giant lemurs vanished from the trees. The ancient forests turned to ash. The ghosts of Madagascar were replaced by the ghosts of what humanity had undone, leaving behind only a profound silence and the lingering question of what other worlds we have unknowingly erased. For 80 million years, it was a world adrift, a biological ark sailing the Indian Ocean in splendid isolation. Its inhabitants, sculpted by time and solitude, had weathered forces that reshaped the planet. They endured the cataclysmic impact that erased the dinosaurs from the continents. They persisted through the creeping ice of global winters, and they withstood the earth-shattering fury of volcanoes that tore the land asunder. These were the titans of a lost world, creatures of impossible scale and form. Here, the ground once trembled beneath the tread of Majungasaurus, a fearsome theropod with a thickened skull built for combat, a predator so opportunistic it turned on its own kind in times of scarcity. The forests were home to giant lemurs, some the size of a grown gorilla, moving with a slow, deliberate strength. And across the plains roamed the Apiornis, the elephant bird, a feathered behemoth weighing half a ton, which laid the largest egg of any known animal in the history of life. A single cell so vast it could hold the contents of 150 chicken eggs. They were the zenith of a unique evolutionary experiment, a grand dynasty that had known no equal. And then, after 80 million years of resilience, they faced a force they could not survive: humanity. A new predator, slight of build but armed with a mind that carried fire and a hand that shaped tools, had arrived on these shores. When the smoke of the first fires finally cleared, Madagascar had entered a new epoch. The age of giants was over. It was now the age of the small, an era inherited by the nimble, the cautious, the overlooked, the survivors who now walked a world built upon the ruins of prehistory. Today, as we move through the dripping emerald labyrinths of Ranomafana, or stand in silent awe before the colossal baobabs of Morondava, it is a profound and humbling thought that beneath our very feet lie the scattered bones of that ancient world. The fossilized vertebrae of Majungasaurus, the shattered calcite eggshells of the last elephant birds, and the ghostly footprints of beasts that vanished tens of thousands of years ago. Madagascar is not merely an island, it is a doorway in time, a threshold left open between a deep past and a fragile present, where every rustling leaf, every trickling stream, whispers stories of what was lost. The monsters may be gone, but their legacy breathes in the creatures that remain. It is a ghost in the machine, an echo in the blood. You can see it in the wild, unnerving gaze of a lemur, an ancient intelligence from a branch of the primate tree that existed long before the dawn of monkeys and apes. You can feel it in the sudden, fluid strike of the end. You witness it in the long, powerful legs of the island's running birds, a faint genetic memory of their giant, flightless ancestors. Madagascar is no mere graveyard of fossils. It is a seance, a place where the past still breathes through the living. Millions of years have passed since the island was first set adrift. This solitary continent in miniature continues its quiet journey through the ocean, weathering storms and tectonic upheavals until it has settled into the form we know today. Now, the climate has softened, splitting the island into two distinct worlds. In the east, rain is a constant companion. Moisture, carried on the winds from the Indian Ocean, feeds rainforests so dense they feel eternal. Beneath a canopy that blots out the sky, mist drifts in an endless, silent dance. Sunlight, when it penetrates, is filtered through a billion suspended dropples. To the west, the air burns with a dry, relentless heat. Here, the wind carries the scent of salt from the Mozambique Channel, sweeping across plains of red earth and barren, sun-baked valleys. It is a land of thirst, a landscape dominated by the silent sentinels of the baobab trees. Thirst soil with primeval strength. Between these two worlds, the emerald and the amber, stretches a living frontier where evolution has branched into a dizzying array of divergent paths. The rainforests still pulse with a symphony of life. The haunting calls of birds, the percussive leap of lemurs through the canopy, the ceaseless, electric hum of insects and frogs, all blend into a chorus that is played uninterrupted for millennia. As night falls, the forest awakens into a different reality. Moonlight catches in the golden, liquid eyes of nocturnal lemurs. It glints off the iridescent scales of geckos, camouflaged so perfectly against tree bark, they seem to be apparitions. Every motion here is slow, deliberate, as if nature itself still breathes to the unhurried rhythm of a far more ancient time. Madagascar today is a fusion of the immediate present and a profound ancient memory. Though the dinosaurs are gone, their spirit, their resilience, their fierce adaptability, their wild and untamable beauty still lingers in the small bodies and sharp senses of the creatures that now roam this island arc. To step into a Malagasy forest is to enter a living museum where time does not flow forward in a straight line, but rather gathers in pools, suspended in each drop of dew, in each whisper of the wind through the trees. Within that living tapestry, the ghosts of Gondwana still walk, reminding us that the past is never truly gone. It is merely sleeping, dreaming within the heart of the present. In the vast laboratory of evolution, there are islands of time, places set apart, where the grand narrative of life took a different course. None is more singular than Madagascar. Here, in a world without the familiar reign of monkeys or apes, another lineage of primates inherited the forest. They are the lemurs. Their origins are shrouded in the deep past, a story of chance and survival against impossible odds. Some 50, perhaps 60 million years ago, a desperate voyage took place. not a vessel of wood and sail, but a tangled raft of vegetation, torn from an African riverbank by a storm, carrying a handful of tiny, terrified castaways. This was a journey across the Mozambique Channel, an odyssey between oblivion and existence, from which only a few would survive. Yet from that fragile founding colony, an evolutionary explosion was ignited. Nature, given an empty stage, composed a masterpiece of diversity, crafting over 100 distinct species. Here, the world's smallest primate, the mouse lemur, weighing a mere 50 grams, flits through the morning sun, their arms outstretched in a silent, reverent communion. Their complex calls are the language of the troop, a constant stream of information and emotion. And from the high canopy of the eastern rainforests, a sound carries for miles, the haunting, melodic song of the Indri. Nearly the size of a small child, its spectral choir is not just a greeting to the dawn, but a territorial declaration, a hymn to the light that sustains its world. These Sis Island, they are its living heart. But reflected in those shimmering eyes is a profound solitude, a quiet fear. For the story of their miraculous journey and explosive diversification is bound to the fate of the trees. If the forests vanish, so too will they. An evolutionary saga, tens of millions of years in the making, will fall silent. This isolation did not only shape the prey, it defined the predator. On a continent ruled by lions, leopards, and jackals, Madagascar remained apart. But nature abhors a vacuum. Into the empty space at the apex of the food chain, evolution sculpted a hunter of unique design, the fossa. Part cat in its fluid grace, part mongoose in its sinuous form, it belongs entirely to neither. It is an echo of ancient carnivores, a creature that walks a lonely evolutionary path. Stretching over a meter in length, the fossa counterbalance its semi-retractable claws, finding purchase in the bark. It can drop from the canopy in a silent plummet, hunting with a blinding, explosive speed. Its primary quarry, the lemur. When night descends, the forest is punctuated by the fossa's short, chilling cry. To the lemurs, it is the sound of pure terror, the final, sharp note in a symphony of survival balanced by nature for millennia. Yet even this king is fragile. As deforestation carves away its kingdom, and humans perceive it as a threat to their livestock, the last great predator of Madagascar is being silently pushed toward the edge of existence. If the lemur is the forest's soul and the fossa its shadow, then its magicians are the masters of illusion. Here, survival is not always a contest of speed or strength, but of deception. In the tangled branches, the leaf-tailed gecko performs an act of impossible disappearance. So perfect is its camouflage that when it presses its body to a tree trunk, it ceases to exist to the searching eye. Its skin is a living tapestry of bark, patterned with the intricate cartography of lichen and phantom moss. Its body is flattened, its edges blurred by a delicate fringe that dissolves its outline into the wood. When a predator approaches, it does not flee. It simply vanishes, becoming one with the bark it mimics. It is a creature sculpted by illusion itself, a testament to the evolutionary pressure to remain unseen. This is a world built on isolation, a sanctuary where life was allowed to dream in new forms. Each of these beings, the ancient lemur, the singular fossa, the spectral gecko, is a living chapter in a story of evolution found nowhere else on Earth. They are the final heirs to a kingdom of wonders. Yet their kingdom is shrinking, its boundaries receding with each falling tree, and we are left to wonder if we will be the generation that bears witness to its end, watching as a world of unparalleled biological artistry, forged in the crucible of deep time, fades into a permanent, silent memory. Upon this island, a world unto itself, evolution has pursued its most esoteric paths. Here, among the tangled vines and ancient trees, reside its most famous inhabitants, the chameleons. They are the living embodiment of adaptation, having reached a pinnacle of biological engineering. Some are so diminutive They could rest comfortably upon the tip of a human finger, yet they are masters of their domain. Their eyes, twin turrets of perception, swivel independently of one another, granting them a seamless 360-degree view of the world. One eye can track the slow crawl of an insect, while the other scans the canopy for the shadow of a hawk. It is a mind divided, processing two separate realities at once. And then there is the strike. It is not merely fast, it is an act of biomechanical violence. A complex architecture of cartilage and elalone, in a fraction of a second, with unerring precision, it finds its mark. This is the art of the miniature predator, perfected. Madagascar is their global capital, a sanctuary that holds more than half of all the world's chameleon species. The vast majority of these living jewels exist nowhere else on the planet. Nature, it seems, has used this isolated landmass as its private gallery of camouflage, where every creature is a singular masterpiece of survival. From the miniature to the monumental, one's gaze is drawn to the sentinels of this strange world, the baobab trees. To see them is to understand why this place is often called the land of the upside down. Their colossi resembling roots torn from the earth, an ancient legend tells of disgruntled gods who planted them in a fit of pique, forever binding them between heaven and earth. But their true story is written not in myth, but in the language of endurance. The massive trunk is a reservoir, a fortress of life that can store thousands of gallons of water, allowing the tree to withstand years of relentless drought. Some have stood on these plains for more than 2,000 years, silent chroniclers that have witnessed the birth and extinction of countless other species. When the long dry season bleeds the color from the landscape and the surrounding forest withers into dust, the baobabs remain, their stark silhouettes etched against the horizon, guardians of the island's deepest memories. This island is a living paradox. In the east, a spine of mountains traps the moisture sweeping in from the Indian Ocean, and rain is a near constant companion. Here, the tropical forests are so profoundly dense that sunlight becomes a precious commodity, dappling the forest floor in fleeting patterns. The air is thick with the scent of wet earth and decay, a symphony of life and death. Through this emerald canopy echoes the haunting cry of the lemur, a sound that seems to rise from the very soul of the island, mingling with the chorus of unseen birds and the ceaseless hum of a million insects. Yet, travel only a few hundred kilometers to the west, and you enter another dimension. The world transforms into a panorama of red dust and thorny scrub. The air grows hot and dry. Here, in the spiny desert, the great baobabs rise from the sand in silent majesty. Life has not vanished, it has merely changed its form. It is a kingdom ruled by the small and the tenacious, insects armored against the heat, and reptiles that seem forged from the ochre earth itself. Two worlds, two profound extremes, coexisting on a single fragment of land. It is this very contrast, this geological and climatic tension, that has made Madagascar a crucible of evolution. Every mountain range that isolates a valley, every river that carves a new path, becomes an engine of creation, giving birth to another unique branch on the tree of life. Nowhere else on Earth is the sheer, boundless creativity of time and isolation so vividly expressed. As dusk settles over the eastern forests, a transformation occurs. The diurnal world falls silent, and a new cast of characters emerges. The calls of the lemurs rise once more, no longer a territorial declaration, but a ghostly lament that drifts through the rising mist. Moonlight filters through. They are the eyes of creatures who have witnessed millions of years of solitude, the eyes of a lineage that predates the continent's final separation. Small, seemingly fragile, they are living relics, breathing archives of an Earth that no longer exists anywhere else. Madagascar is not merely an island, it is a vessel adrift in the ocean of time, a place where the deep past, the tenuous present, and an uncertain future converge upon the same ancient ground. For tens of millions of years, it has existed as a self-contained universe, a precious fragment of the planet's primordial memory. And yet, in the geological blink of an eye, within a few short centuries, that irreplaceable paradise has begun to fracture. From the silent vantage of space, the great planetary crises appear as abstract forces: the slow creep of ice, the violent bloom of a volcano, the cataclysmic shadow of an asteroid. But here, on this living sphere, a different kind of apocalypse is unfolding. One not born of geology or cosmos, but from the restless hands of humankind. Viewed from orbit, the island of Madagascar is a wound. It is a masterpiece of evolution being torn from the canvas of the earth. What were once unbroken expanses of deep emerald rainforest now lie in tatters, shattered into 1,000 fragments. They are mere islands of green, adrift in a sea of desiccated ochre soil, a landscape bleeding its life force into the sea. Upon this red earth, fires still smolder, their smoke a constant hazy shroud. Here, in the low hills, the cycle of destruction continues. An ancient practice known as tevi, slash and burn agriculture, carves new wounds into the remaining wilderness. By night, the firelight licks at the ancient trunks of the baobabs, transforming these colossal, skeletal giants into pillars of flame, holding up a sky choked with ash. This is the front line of extinction. In the canopy, lemurs, their eyes wide with terror, make desperate, impossible leaps through branches engulfed in fire. Birds, their frantic calls swallowed by the roar, abandon their nests and vanish into the smoke. And below, in the leaf litter, an entire universe of insects and reptiles, the quiet, unseen architects of the forest floor, suffocates in a blanket of gray ash. Each hectare of forest burned is not just a loss of trees, it is the erasure of an entire chain of life, a symphony of connections silenced forever. In the span of a single century, more than 90% of Madagascar's original forests have vanished. What remains is a broken archipelago of ecological islands, isolated pockets where unique species are marooned, awaiting a slow, inevitable extinction. The forest is more than a habitat. It is the island's lungs, breathing life into the atmosphere. It is the island's waterkeeper, capturing the monsoon rains. It is the anchor for the soil, the very soul of the land. As the forest dies, everything begins to crumble. Today, over 100 species of lemur still cling to existence here, but a staggering 95% of them are threatened with extinction. The Indri, the largest of all lemurs, was once the sacred voice of the eastern mountains. Now, its song is a ghost, heard only in a few precious sanctuaries near Andasibe, small havens yet untouched by the chainsaw. Each morning, as the mist rises, they sing. Their clear, lingering notes are not a chorus of life, but a haunting elegy, a lament for a world that is gone. These are the oldest primates on Earth, survivors of the very asteroid that sealed the fate of the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. They are a testament to resilience, a living link to a vanished world. Yet, having endured a planetary extinction event, they cannot survive us. They are hunted for food, captured for the illegal pet trade, and relentlessly driven from their homes as the forests burn. With every species of lemur that disappears, another chapter of primate evolution, our own distant history, closes forever. The fall of one creature precipitates the fall of another. The faune of the night. Now the hunter has become the hunted. Perceived as a threat to livestock, it is killed on sight. Only a few hundred are thought to our ecosystem unravels. Without its predator, rat populations explode. Swarms of insects ravage the meager crops. The delicate balance, fine-tuned over millions of years of splendid isolation, has been thrown into chaos in the space of a few generations. Madagascar covers less than 0.4% of Earth's land area, yet it is a cradle for more than 5% of all known species. 90% of them exist nowhere else on the planet. This is not just an island. It is an evolutionary laboratory, a living museum of biological possibility. When a Malagasy species disappears, its loss is absolute. It is an irreversible erasure from the book of life. Hidden within the bark of its trees, the mycelial networks of its fungi, and the genetic code of its bacteria may lie chemical compounds unknown to science, potential medicines, new materials, answers to questions we have not yet learned to ask. We look upon this destruction as a tragedy for the natural world, a story of animals and trees. But the smoldering earth of Madagascar reflects a deeper truth. It reveals the immense and terrifying power our species now wields. We are a geological force with a consciousness, the architects of a new epoch defined not by what we create, but by what we irrevocably destroy. The fate of these ancient lineages, and countless others across the globe, rests not on their ability to adapt to a changing climate or a new predator, but on their ability to endure the simple, cumulative weight of human choice. Within the architecture of a single, undiscovered orchid lies a potential blueprint for medicines yet to be conceived. In the complex chemistry of a frog's skin, a possible answer to antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Here, in the world's oldest laboratory, are held the remedies for a future we cannot yet see. But with every tide of fire that consumes this ancient land, entire libraries of genetic knowledge are rendered to ash and memory. Unnamed species, each a unique evolutionary story, millions of years in the making, vanish into the smoke-filled sky. The secrets of life itself dissolving into the atmosphere. Yet, on this bleeding island, a quiet rebellion persists. In the humid mountain air of Ranomafana, human hands press saplings back into the wounded earth. One by one, they work to stitch the green tapestry of the jungle back together, a painstaking act of restoration against overwhelming odds. Further north, in the forests of Andasibe, a new generation learns the lexicon of the wild. Children are taught not just to see the forest, but to hear it, to distinguish the haunting calls of the Indri, to understand that this ecosystem provides not merely firewood for the present, but the very breath for their future. International science has come here not to conquer, but to bear witness, to listen. Unblinking camera traps, set deep within the regenerating wilderness, capture ghostly images of life returning. A family of lemurs, absent for decades, reappears in the twilight. A young fossa, the island's elusive predator, is recorded within a restored corridor, fragile, living proof that nature's resilience is a force of profound power, if only given the chance. In some communities, a revolutionary shift in perspective is taking hold. The forest is no longer seen as a resource to be liquidated for a day's survival, but as an enduring source of life. Through ecotourism, a living lemur leaping through the canopy has become more valuable than the timber it rests upon. The struggle is monumental, but every tree that takes root, every creature saved, is a defiant spark against the encroaching darkness. Madagascar is not dead, it is locked in a battle for its life. Across the red highlands, the dust of a dying land rises, yet deep in the surviving forests, life blooms with a silent, tenacious will. Tiny mouse lemurs are born into a precarious world. Ancient baobabs, skeletal against the dry season sky, still burst into ephemeral flower. And the fur. The question is no longer whether this island ark can survive. The question is whether humanity will find the wisdom to let it. For if this paradise is lost, we will lose more than an island. We will lose a mirror to our own origins, a reflection of a time when we understood ourselves not as masters of the natural world, but as an inseparable part of it. As long as a single raindrop beads on a baobab leaf, as long as the song of a lemur echoes through the mist, this world has not surrendered. And as long as it continues to breathe, so too does our own hope.